Our guest is Monique Rebelle, a spiritual teacher, author, and visionary artist. Monique's life was forever altered by a profound experience, a spontaneous Kundalini rising, which propelled her from the depths of despair to a state of profound fulfillment and boundless creativity. Monique, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction, Joanna. I'm happy to be here.
Let's start with our first question. Can you explain what Kundalini is and how this experience transformed you from a state of depression to fulfillment?
Well, my spontaneous experience happened when the word Kundalini was not yet that well known. I didn't know it. I didn't know what subtle body was. I didn't believe in chakras and had an unclear idea about what self-realization, spiritual enlightenment could be. On the other hand, over the years, without being a spiritual seeker, I had several otherworldly experiences. I guess I was following some kind of my own intuitive path, and my dedication to my art was a spiritual practice, even if I didn't call it this way. And my experience, as you said, took place when severely depressed. I saw myself as a total failure. I hated myself. All I wanted to do was to end the torture my life was. I was about to proceed when something unbelievable happened. It only took 30 minutes for my life to change completely from being someone oppressed by my hardships, struggling with depression. I had this debilitating inner rage and eventually unbearable emotional pain. And then I became someone deeply happy, fulfilled, loving life, and buzzing with great energy. You know, without words, I knew what happened. I followed and comprehended every moment of that magical journey. Over the months and years after the experience, I could see the transformation it brought. And I also took years to contemplate, to find the right words to explain the process and why is it so important for humanity to strive towards spiritual growth. So my definition of Kundalini is, like everything I teach, is coming directly from my experience. I use Sanskrit words to honor and revere thousands of years of old Indian tradition, where the Kundalini process has been rightfully considered a divine occurrence. So I understand Kundalini as an individual unit of consciousness. I understand spirit to be the same as consciousness. Spirit equals consciousness. However, there is an individual spirit and all there is spirit. It means that there is an individual consciousness and ultimate all there is consciousness. And during our lifetime, most of us do not realize that our consciousness is resting at the bottom of the spine in the sacrum area between the first and second chakra. And it is in a state of a slumber. Under some circumstances, unexpectedly or after deliberate practices, Kundalini can awaken and try to rise up through the chakras to fulfill its mission of transforming into a conscious, eternal soul, and then uniting with the ultimate consciousness, all there is, spirit.
You wrote a book, Transcendence Calling, The Power of Kundalini Rising and Spiritual Enlightenment. What inspired you to write this book, and what key messages do you hope readers take away from it?
Yeah, in the years after the experience, I was observing myself to see if the results of that incredible transformation were indeed long lasting. So, understanding the process allowed me to engage in practices that would help to maintain the state of deep happiness, peace, in positive energy. Initially, I helped others sporadically, but I was aware that there is so much more I could do. After talking to friends who strongly encouraged me to write the book, I took time to present the experience and my insights in the best possible way, in the understandable way. So the book consists of 3 parts. The first part is autobiographical, where the readers can find out that I'm a real, imperfect person who happened to have an unreal, amazing experience. And I'm not the only one. There's more and more people having these experiences. In the second part, I describe what happened, the whole Kundalini rising process and the results. These days, we know about more people experiencing symptoms of Kundalini rising, and there is a lot of curiosity about this mysterious phenomenon. In the third part of my book, I outline my major findings, and I introduce what I call our multidimensional consciousness. I saw it as an organic system. I observed it during my experience. And I also talk about the practices, but in the second book, this one that's coming out soon, I'm dedicated to in-depth exploration of the dimensions of perception and specific practices on each chakra. Spiritual growth can help us to deal with seemingly impossible to overcome obstacles in our lives. Like many teachers before me, I hope to have explained what we can expect from working on ourselves and how we can make this world a much better place for everybody and for all of life.
This is why you also offer a variety of courses, and for example, on Sisu. And can you share some of the fundamental practices that you teach in these courses?
I still meet for individual sessions, but there is one main program I teach, and it's this higher self course 1 and 2. On a higher self course, we embark on a full Kundalini rising process. And as we travel up, the fundamental rule in this course is that we do not try to awaken Kundalini out of the desire for the experience. We prepare ourselves for Kundalini to rise by clearing the path for this tremendous energy. We do it by training and cultivating chakras. Another fundamental principle of my teachings is that it is two-step process. First is learning the system. It is easy and close to the traditional view of subtle body with Kundalini and chakras, but there are important differences as well. So it is learning the system first, and then the second step is using it. One of the most important practices, and I call that one the step 0, is to identify your Kundalini, identify your consciousness, the essence of your being. So after completing the course, we can be sure to always find that inexhaustible power and that magic that each of us truly is. Another fundamental principle of my teachings is to explore and learn the nature of each dimension and work on each chakra separately. We experience life as a fusion of energy of all the chakras, all that are active in our system. But in order to find the blocks and the weak points, or work on developing a chakra, we need to know well what is going on every level of our existence. Then we need to learn the practices that will train the lower chakras and cultivate the upper ones in most cases. In the last few sessions of the Higher Self course, we designed a practice that will combine exercises on various chakras and create a routine addressing our individual predispositions and needs. So basically, the purpose of this life-changing course is twofold. For one, we are repairing what is not working well in our personal life, consciously upgrading to a higher level. And the other purpose is awakening to fully realize that we are being created and we are creating our world at the same time. We learn to engage in the part that is our own creation to make this world beautiful and prosperous for all of life.
Sounds amazing.
Yes,
And
it
also,
is amazing, yes.
and also sounds like you personalize the course to each individual.
Yes.
And each individual plays active role in self realization and self understanding.
Yes.
That's very special. I haven't heard about such a course before.
Experiencing life through the chakras, and the chakras open us up to the dimensions. And for everyone, it is different. Everyone is different, going through different experiences. Some feel that the problem may be emotional patterns and difficult, hard to get rid of emotional states. For others, it is maybe lack of clarity about one's life, maybe unsustainable outlook on their future, and maybe overall sense of confusion, helplessness. It could be feeling unloved and lonely, or having relationship problems. So there is a variety of issues, but they all belong in certain places in our life. They belong in certain dimensions of perception. So others may have various spiritual experiences and need to find out what should be their next step. Each story is distinct. And although we read the same written material for the course and practice the same types of exercises, as we move up on our Kundalini journey, we learn to fully recognize where the problems are and how to deal with our unique situation. For example, if we're troubled by overwhelming emotions and we see how our life events influence our feelings, we first need to learn to separate our emotions from the stories, from our events, from what caused the problem, as we think. Otherwise, we will never resolve our problems. It means working on the second and third chakra separately. It's not psychology. It is understanding how able we are and how applying simple but very powerful practices to transcend the charge blocking the chakras. Another example would be gaining a full understanding that the dimension of universal love is always there. And all dimensions are always there. But to understand that the dimension of universal love is always there is that to see that each of us is deeply loved. The next step is using particular practices to tap into that dimension and live life in a loving, compassionate, and fulfilling way. So for everyone, it will be a specific chakra and set of practices that will, for example, stop headaches or emotional roller coaster. Mm-hmm. And as we have found, being very spiritual, having the upper chakras open is not always enough. We need to work on the lower chakras as well. And so it is crucial to understand that each dimension of perception operates on a different principle. Know those differences and implement practices that will address individual situation. I usually work one-on-one, but sometimes a small group up to 3 people can be very successful too. And really, it is everyone, absolutely everyone already has their own unique path to self-realization and spiritual enlightenment. It's waiting for them. I help to find that path, help to design personal practice, and maintain it for optimal results.
I also noticed that your courses address emotional, mental, and spiritual obstacles. Can you share an example of how you tailor these teachings to address these particular obstacles?
I think I mentioned that in answering the previous question, actually, that everyone is different. And so when we have, say, emotional problems, we tend to unite them together with the events that affected our state, our well-being. So we go back to the story and try to figure out it all in a psychological way. But the way it happened with me and the way I've been teaching quite successfully for a while is that we need to focus just on the emotion itself. So there are little differences that are quite meaningful between how the traditional system of the chakras is understood in the traditional way. The second one could be sexual, emotional, and creative, and I don't see it that way. I see the second chakra only as emotional, and it's the spirit itself that once it's in the body, it becomes survival, sexual, and creative, and it will manifest in the lower chakra, but it's not the function of the chakra itself. So the second chakra is emotional, and there is a 7-step practice that allows us to actually step away from the emotion, to understand, first of all, that we are not the emotion itself, but we are able to leave it and let it disintegrate. Because if we don't feed it, especially feed it with the thoughts from the third chakra, it's going to dissipate. And that's how we are practicing. It's from what I'm describing it right now, it may be difficult to actually practice it, but it's just the idea. And in the course, we go through each of the steps that teaches how to step away from the emotion and allow that practice I call emotions emptiness. And I call it emptiness because we reach the state of emotional emptiness. It feels like a vacuum. And in that vacuum, Kundalini, which is right below the second chakra, right in this area, Kundalini in that vacuum will be able to start going up. And that's the process with the lower chakras. We are releasing the charge. We're releasing the charge, especially from the second and third. And as I said earlier, some people could be very, very spiritual and advanced in meditation and yoga, and yet the emotional roller coaster is there, and states, emotional states that are difficult to control are there. So we definitely taking care of that, of the emotions and thoughts. It's a big deal for pretty much everyone I work with, and it was definitely a big deal for me. And when we start working on these lower ones, it doesn't feel spiritual. It's really kind of effort to have discipline to work on yourself. The sacredness starts in the heart, in the heart chakra, starts in the universal love, the dimension of universal love. That's when everything becomes sacred. And that's when we can see, because chakras are hierarchical, we can see that from above, we can see down. From below, we cannot see up. So from this place of love, we can see how people can be feeling lonely and not recognizing that they are loved, that they are always loved, that love is always there. It's timeless. This dimension has time. The mind and will, the thoughts, the dimension of thoughts has time. So, and so on. I mean, there is so much.
Well, thank you for that, Monique. That's been wonderful to talk to you and see and understand more about your process.
Sure, of course. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. This was awesome. Thank you, Joanna.
For all of the audience that are interested in Monique's course, I will leave the link to her offerings in the description of this video, or you can just go to sisu.com and type Monique Rebelle in the search bar, and you will see all the courses that Monique offers on the platform. So yeah, it's been great. I hope I will see you again.
Yeah, see you soon. Bye.
Bye.